Namaste. Welcome to the 4th edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, organized by Indica Moksha. My name is Anuradha and I'm the host for the evening. We're very happy to have a video recording of Neema Majmudar on the topic Sadachara Anusandhana of Shankaracharya. Before we get on to the talk, I'd like to introduce the speaker. Neema ji has a unique combination of personal background, international exposure, education, and depth of spiritual knowledge, which makes her an inspiring writer and teacher of Indian philosophy. She has studied Indian philosophy with Swami Dayananda in the tradition of Sanskrit. In addition to traditional Vedic studies, Neema ji has a number of years of experience as a professional with the United Nations. Currently, she holds seminars and retreats with her husband Surya Tahora, incorporating concepts of Hindu philosophy with Western psychology, ethics, and management. Recently, she with her students Nandini and Saloni have published in an illustrated book, Finding Meaning in Life with the Bhagavadpada. This book gives profound insights into the teachings of Lord Krishna. Let us listen to the talk. Since it's a video recording, we will not be taking any questions at the end.
Namaste, everybody. I'm very, very happy to present this text called Sadachara. And thank you very much for inviting me to give 4 sessions on this text of Adi Shankaracharya. I'm right now in Tahiti. So when Nitinji asked me to give a talk, I said I will do the first one, which is pre-recorded. So thank you, everybody, and welcome. So I will start by the prayer. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I'm happy to do the text Sadachara of Adi Shankaracharya because it talks about 2 things. One is a certain preparation which is required in for us to gain knowledge. And the second is, how you can make the normal practices that you have, how you can turn them into contemplation. So having a contemplative life is very, very important. And also, gaining a certain purity at the level of mind is also very important to, really assimilate this knowledge and live from this vision of oneness. This is one thing that I'm very aware of because a lot of times, when Vedanta says that you are the whole, you are one with Ishvara, and your essential nature is Sachidananda, which is totally free from all the, qualities or attributes of the body or the mind. And this is a reality which needs to be understood. But many times there is people have this problem of dissociation. They just kind of negate their individuality and pretend as though they have understood the vision, whereas actually this vision requires a certain maturity before it becomes very clear. So it's a pursuit. It's not that first time you hear it, you are totally clear about it, and you can't just pretend that that is the reality and this is your truth. It requires, for you to actually work on yourself, gain certain maturity. And this book is an aid for that. So let's start with the first verse. And first verse, as usual, is a prayer. So, Satchidananda Kandaya Jagat Ankura Hetave Sada Uditaya Purnaya Namaha Anantaya Vishnave. So, the first verse is invocation for Lord Vishnu. And who is Lord Vishnu? Lord Vishnu is of the nature of Satchidananda. So what is the reality of Ishvara is existence, awareness, which is limitless. And that also happens to be our reality. Ishvara knows this reality. We do not know this reality. Therefore, the knowledge is from Ishvara to us. So we invoke the grace of Ishvara for us to be able to understand this knowledge. And who is this knowledge? Jagat Ankura Hetave. So what Ishvara is the cause of the universe. So what is the cause of the universe? All knowledge and all power. It's not just one entity out there sitting somewhere. The all knowledge and all power, which was unmanifest in form of a potential, which is Maya, and then it manifested as Jagat and became Jagat Karanam Ishvara. So that is what the cause of the world, and that which is ever present. So time comes from it, space comes from it. It is something from which the time, space, and object, which is what we call the universe, has come, and it precedes the universe in form of potential. And therefore it is ever present. It is Purnaya. It is complete, because all forms are from this reality. And, the forms come and go, but this reality never, comes and goes, in which all the forms come and go. So therefore, it is always complete. And your salutations to that Vishnu, who is of this nature. And through this teaching, what you are going to be told, that the essential nature of Ishvara, which is Satchidananda, also is your nature, because all that is here is Ishvara. And wherever Ishvara is, the truth of Ishvara is there. So the upadhis are different, but the essence is the same. So this is why we have invocation, which gives us the grace to be able to understand and assimilate this knowledge. Verse number 2. Sarva Vedanta Siddhantaihi Grathitam Nirmalam Shivam Sadacharam Pravakshami Yoginam Nanasiddhaye. Here, the author basically is explaining why the author is Adi Shankaracharya. So Adi Shankaracharya is explaining for what reason this book is written. So what is explained is Yogi Nam Nanasiddhaye. What is it done? What is it for? It is to help to help whom? Yogis. Yogis, who are the yogis? Yogis don't mean that people who do yoga. Now, of course, that is wonderful. But here it is meant in a way that the person who is a karma yogi, the person who is a seeker of this knowledge. So who is the person who is seeker of this knowledge? The person who has understood very clearly the limitation of artha, dharma, and kama. Artha is all forms of security, kama is all forms of pleasures, and also dharma the person has understood that it cannot give me the immortality that I'm seeking. It cannot give me the fullness that I'm seeking. It cannot give me freedom from all limitations and lack and inadequacies that I'm seeking. And the person then begins to understand that, that I'm actually seeking moksha, the freedom, and artha, dharma, and kama cannot give me. So becomes the pursuer of this knowledge. Then what is important is that not only you are a mumukshu, but you are also, the mumukshu has to turn into being a jignasu. And who is a jignasu? The person who has understood one more thing, that if I'm basically limited, right, whatever I add, which is within time and space, is going to be limited. So limited plus limited only keeps me in limitation. So therefore, it is not about adding or subtracting anything to a limited being. It is that way you can't solve this problem. So the only possibility is that I am already the whole. If you are already the whole, then the next question is, then why are you seeking it? So you seek it because you don't know it. So Swamiji used to give a lovely example and say that suppose I get my glasses on my head and I started talking to somebody, and after the conversation was over and I wanted to read something, I could be searching for my glasses all over, but I always had them. So what the ignorance, there is no physical distance between the glasses and me, but in my understanding, I have concluded that I don't have it and I search for it everywhere. So similarly, limitlessness is our true nature, but we do not know this fact and we search for it everywhere and we never find it. So this is why who is the jignasu, who has figured out that the only way to solve the problem of my smallness is that I'm already free from all the limitations. And if I'm already free from the limitations, and if I have concluded that I'm limited, then the problem is that of ignorance, and I have to remove that ignorance. And what is opposed to ignorance is knowledge. So the person becomes seeker of the knowledge. So therefore, it is for yogi nam jnana siddhaya. For that person who is searching to gain the knowledge, this book is written. What is this? The Sadachara is the teacher is saying that I will explain, and it is something which is pure and auspicious, which will help the person. So here we have to be in our tradition we have three things that we study in Vedanta Shastra: Shruti, Smriti, and Purana. Purana and Prakarana Grantha. What is Shruti? Shruti is what is in the Vedas, that's the original. And the Upanishads, what Upanishads reveal as the truth of yourself and of the universe. That is the source book. And Smriti constitutes Bhagavad Gita, which has an author, Vyasa. And in this amazing, story of Mahabharata, in between, there is a jewel of Gita where Lord Krishna reveals the same reality as it is contained in the Upanishads, and shows Arjuna how he is limitless. And that's the only thing that could release Arjuna from all the sorrows and the suffering that he was going through. So that is called Smriti. And then we have Prakarana Grantha. And Prakarana Grantha are mostly texts written by the author, they are authored by teachers of Vedanta. So they want to highlight a particular aspect of the teaching, or they want to give more details which will help the student to assimilate what is mentioned in Vedas, Upanishads, and in Bhagavad Gita. So they are called Prakarana Grantha. This is a Prakarana Grantha, the author of which is Adi Shankaracharya. And what he's saying is, it is for Jnana Siddhi of Mumukshus. Okay, so in any text, the author must have four things in mind for whom the text is written, and that is called who's the adhikari, who's eligible to read this text. What is Vishaya? What is the subject matter? The subject matter is what is contained in the Upanishads and Gita, showing you are the whole and you're not this struggling individual who's constantly searching for satisfaction through one's transaction with the world. What is Prayojana? Prayojana, what is the result? What is the outcome of this discovery? There is moksha. Moksha is freedom from all forms of limitation that we are all suffering from. So moksha is the prayojana. Then you can ask the question, what is the relationship between, my getting the freedom and reading this book? So that is what we call sambandha. And what is the sambandha? Pratipadaka, Pratipadya Sambandha. Pratipadaka is the book is the one which reveals this teaching, and the book that reveals this teaching is called Pratipadaka. And what is Pratipadya? What is revealed by the teaching? You are the whole. So that is why the words have the capacity to remove the ignorance. It's not a matter of acquiring something which we don't have. The words, if they are assimilated accurately without projecting our own interpretations, then they have the power to show us the truth, right? Lead us to this truth, and it becomes something which is as clear as daylight for us. So this is why the book is not, it does not give you theoretical knowledge. The book has words which can reveal the truth. And if you have a prepared mind, you can actually, it is capable of understanding it. And as it understands it, what happens? Ignorance goes, and you can, gain moksha by reclaiming, your true nature. So it's something which is there, but you don't know it. So one has to claim one's own reality. Okay? So that is why it is Pratipadaka, Pratipadya Sambandha. Okay. Now, the third verse, there are some practices. As I told you, that the first time you hear this teaching, it doesn't mean that you understand it. So there is a pursuit, and this is why it's very important to map ourselves accurately and to recognize where we are in this pursuit. Otherwise, we pretend as though we have understood it, and we still haven't. And that doesn't do any good to us, because we stop making an effort for something which is which requires an effort. So the first thing, there are certain practices that this book highlights, which allows us to prepare this mind for the knowledge. So the third verse is Pratas Marami Devasya Savituhu Vargaha Atmanaha Varenyam Tadhiyaha Yaha Naha Chidanande Prachodayat. So therefore, what is done in our Indian culture is what a child who's 8 or 9 years old is initiated to Gayatri Mantra. And what is this Gayatri Mantra? In Gayatri Mantra, so what we pray to Savituhu. And who is Savituhu? Ishvara is intelligence and the power. Sarvadyaha Sarvashaktiman Ishvara, which is manifesting the whole universe. So one of the manifestations of this knowledge and power is Lord Sun. And Lord Sun is a direct blessing. So what do we declare to Savituhu? We look at the sun and we say, you are Varenyam, you are Pujaniyam. Pujaniya means you are worthy of my worship. Why? Because, the sun, as all of us know, it participates in our life in so many different ways. First, it provides, us with life, because if the sun was little farther from where it is, the earth would be so cold and inhabitable. And if it was too near, again, earth would be extremely hot and it would be equally inhabitable. So the fact that, sun has that position vis-a-vis the earth, and it remains the same position, right? Even though the whole galaxy and the whole universe moves, that itself is a wonder. So what do we, we thank the sun for our life. We don't take its presence for granted. In addition to that, sun participates in giving us all the nutrients that are necessary to sustain our bodies. So all the plants that we see around us, they all, draw energy from the sun and produce all the different nutrients that we need in order to sustain our body, so that we can accomplish what we have to accomplish during our life on this earth or life anywhere. So that's why sun is Varenium. Sun is Varenium because, it gives us, through the plant kingdom, it gives us all the different nutrients that we need. Now, the plants also have to survive. So sun also participates in producing rains. So it evaporates the ocean water, forms clouds, and the rains come and the rains fall, so that the plant kingdom can survive, and also we get potable water. So this is why sun is Pujaniyam. And that is also Bhargaha. It is so there is so much light, right? And that light is something which has two meanings. One is the physical light, right? So in presence of physical light, there is no chance for any darkness to exist. And also then we can also take symbolic, the light of any ignorance, any confusion, any errors that we have at the level of our mind. When there is light, what happens is there is no room for any such thing. So this is why it is Bhargaha. And to this Bharga, which is of nature of light, what is our prayer? Dhiyaha naha prachodayat. Let our mind, our minds, be lit up means. So life is nothing but series of decisions. What you do at any given point in time has repercussions for you, and it has repercussions for everybody around you, and also for posterity. So when we make decisions which are only coming from our greed or from our confusion, then what happens is we create disharmony for ourselves, and we create disharmony all around us. So we want not to do that. So we not only we have to take responsibility for our actions, but we also ask for help, because in any given situation, there are so many unknowns and we don't know so many things, and we still have to make the decisions. So we ask for help of Ishvara in form of the sun, saying that please light up my buddhi, and so that it is led in the right direction. And that's a beautiful thing to say, because you recognize limitation of a human being to know everything, and you ask for help from Ishvara, right, to guide your mind, so that it doesn't get entangled in its own subjectivity, and it moves towards the truth. Now, this is something which can be taken relatively and also in an absolute way. So relatively means every day you have to make so many decisions, and one needs a certain clarity, to live one's life meaningfully. So that's one thing. But this, the ultimate thing is what? Guide my mind and make it so clear that this knowledge right? So, such Chidanande Prachodayat. My ultimate aim is not only to live a relatively a healthy, a relatively mature life, but this verse recognizes that ultimately what I do need to do is to recognize this final truth and prepare myself and let my mind be subtler and subtler, clearer and clearer, purer and purer, so that it can capture this reality and it can assimilate this reality totally. So how do you, what is the relationship between clear mind and one's assimilation? So that is explained in some texts, and the analogy that is used is, suppose there is sun and then there are three vessels. In one vessel, the water is muddy. In the second one, it is wavy. And in the third one, it is clear water. So as such, the water has got nothing to do with the sun. Sun has, no connection as such with the water. But if you want to see the reflection of the sun, then what a muddy water is not able to reflect the sun. A wavy water also, you get glimpses, but it is not stable. You need a clear water. So similarly, Satchidananda Atma has no connection with the mind as such. But in order to capture the reality, your mind has to have certain purity, without which it is not possible. So this is why let my mind be, not be filled with confusion and errors and subjectivity, which keeps me from seeing this reality. So lead me, lead my mind to this truth and help me in my pursuit. So this is verse number 3. Number 4. How do I get to know the truth of myself? A certain methodology is given. So let's see verse number 4. Anvaya Vyatirekabhyam Jagrat Swapna Sushuptishu Yatekam Kevalam Jnanam Tat Eva Asmi Param Bruhat. Right. So how do I come to my nature as Satchidananda? How? So there is a method which is called Anvaya Vyatireka. What is Anvaya Vyatireka? It's a very simple and very logical method. And what is it? That anything, there is a rule. And what is the rule? That whatever is my intrinsic nature is something that I have with me at all times. And something which is my incidental nature, which comes and goes, is not really my truth, right? So just a simple example to demonstrate that, if saltiness is the nature of salt, then you will always find salt with saltiness. So it's not possible to have it, to have salt and not to have saltiness. That's what provisionally called the intrinsic nature. But suppose there is your bed and it has a bed cover, and that bed cover is blue, then is that the intrinsic nature of bed? No, because you can change the cover and you can make it red or you can make it yellow. So the bed is independent of that color, even though when you look at it, it seems as though there is a certain redness, but it is not its intrinsic nature, because bed can be without the color that you see it. So that is what we call incidental attribute. Incidental attribute means right now it appears like this, but that's not really its own nature, because if it were its own nature, you will never find it without that attribute. So similarly, our identity is so much with who we are in the waking state. And in the waking state, we are alive to what? We have physical body. We have connection with physical body. So now, what does Anvaya Vyatireka do? Anvaya is that which remains, which is ever present, which is invariable, and Vyatireka is that which is changeable. So whatever is Vyatireka, whatever is changeable is not your true nature. What is Anvaya, what doesn't come and go, is your true nature, right? So that's the logic. So now if with this within this framework, if you see who you are, then what is very interesting and what is very revealing is the fact that your connection with the physical body is given to you only in the waking state, right? Once you go to sleep, even though the body is present, you don't have connection with it anymore. So this is why there is no time, there is no space, there are no objects to interact with in deep sleep. In dream, even though your body is in Bombay, you can dream that you're in Varanasi. So what does it do? So that means you have, for the time being, lost your connection with the physical body. So what does that show? That physical body and waking experience is not my intrinsic nature. If I'm able to give it up, it's not my intrinsic nature. Then what about Swapna Avastha, which is dream state? In dream state, you don't have connection with your physical body, but you have connection with your mind, your subtle body. And with the mind, you create a world of your own, dream world of your own, and you start interacting, in your dream world, and you gather experiences in your dream world. But if that was your reality, if Sukshma, the Sukshma Sharira was your reality, then it would stay with you always. But in deep sleep, right, you don't think, you don't experience anything. So what does it mean? Even your connection with Sukshma Sharira, which is available in dream, is no longer there in deep sleep. So that the dream world as well as Sukshma Sharira are not your true nature. Then what about deep sleep? What is there? In fact, the enjoyer, the enjoyed, all these duality is gone in the dream, in the deep sleep. But there is only causal. The causal gives rise to the next day, right? And it again, reconnects you to your physical and subtle body through which you can go through experiences. So the causal in its potential form, if that was your true nature, it'll always remain in potential. But the fact that it changes from potential to the manifest, what it shows is even causal is not your true nature. The causal will keep giving you different experiences. The minute they give you one experience, one part of your causal, which is supposed to produce this experience, is gone. Then what? The second experience will again get rid of another cause which gave you that experience. And as you respond to what is in front of you, you create new causes. So what does it mean? The causal also is changing all the time. And sometimes the causal is only at a potential level. Sometimes it gives rise to experiences in the waking world. Sometimes it gives rise to experiences in the dream world. So even that is something which is changing. So you're not even causal body or that deep sleep. Then who are you? So Anvaya Vyatirekabhyam. So what does it mean? In all three states of experience, what remains is one invariable presence. And what is this invariable presence? The invariable presence is existence of the nature of consciousness. So that is the only thing which remains, which allows you to go through different experiences in the waking, different experiences in the dream, and also in deep sleep state. So that is what is called Turiya. But Turiya cannot be understood as something that you have to transcend physical, subtle, and causal body and go to some other realm. That's not what Upanishads are talking about. It is the Anvaya. And what is this Anvaya? The invariable in all three. Without this presence, none of the three states can exist, but itself is independent of all three. So that is my nature. And what is this? That existence and consciousness is Param Bruhat. It is Param, it is the highest, and it is limitless. So how do I arrive at this presence, which is ever present, which allows me to go through different experiences, is the final truth. That is a very big jump. We can arrive at it by, understanding that each one goes through those experiences, right? Through physical body, subtle body, and the causal. Everybody goes through waking, dream, and deep sleep state. But if each one of us is independent of the three states, which are variable, which are our incidental nature and not our intrinsic nature, then the intrinsic nature of all of us is only one reality, which is existence consciousness, which doesn't have any limitation, which is not that one existence and awareness is different and separate from other existence and awareness. Bodies are separate. The physical, subtle, and causal bodies are separate, but this existence is only one. So that is Gruhat. It is limitless. It has no time-wise limitation. It has no space-wise limitation. It has no object-wise limitation. So this is something that we need to contemplate every day, because it's very easy. The perception gives us a very different impression. And our perception reports duality. And what is this duality? I am only this individual and everything else is external to me. And I find myself wanting in terms of so many things. And I have to keep engaging with the world and depend upon so many things to happen my way to feel satisfied, to feel fulfilled. So this is our orientation, and what do we need to do? But that is based on just what is reported to our senses. But that is not the final truth. So what does one need to do? Listen to this teaching again and again, and use this logic, right? Not deny your experiences in the waking, dream, and deep sleep, but to understand that they are variable. And what is variable is not my true nature. Which is invariable in all three, is something which is my intrinsic reality. And that reality is, limitless. So that is something that we need to understand. Verse number 5. Gnana agnana vilasaha ayam gnana agnane chapashyati gnana agnane parityajya gnanam eva avashishyate. So, this is something which is very important. In this world, you see things which are dvandva. Dvandva means opposed to each other. Light is opposed to darkness. Tall is opposed to short. Fat is opposed to thin. Knowledge is opposed to ignorance. So the two opposites exist within the universe. First you have absence of knowledge about who you are, and through exposing yourself to Vedanta, which is a means of knowledge, it is what we call pramana, you get to know the truth. So what arises is what vritti. And what is that vritti? That vritti, what does it do? It removes the ignorance. It removes the ignorance, and then the knowledge takes place. So that means Ajnana Gnanam is opposed to Ajnanam. But what are we talking about? We are talking about this knowledge, this particular knowledge makes us understand we are that Sachidananda which sustains ignorance, and it also sustains knowledge. Knowledge is opposed to ignorance, but I am the truth of both. Right? I am not, because if Sachidananda was opposed to ignorance, then what will happen? What it would mean is, if I'm Sachidananda, then ignorance cannot exist because I'm opposed to ignorance. But ignorance is there for millennia till I choose to remove it. So what does that show? That Sachidananda is that in which ignorance exists and its opposite, knowledge exists, and it is free from both. And this is what here is saying, that give up, from parityajya, having given up jnana and ajnana, what you arrive at is the truth of both, right? And this is what we have to strive to. This reality is our true nature. So what does it mean in a simple way, right? What in simple way, where you can understand this statement by saying, I can say, I don't know calculus. So what does it mean? There is a presence. And what is that presence? Existence and awareness, which knows that I don't know calculus. Then suppose you go to school and you go to a math teacher and you make an effort, and then you gain knowledge of calculus, which is opposed to ignorance of calculus. Then what you can say, now I know calculus. So before you did not know calculus, now you know calculus. So ignorance of calculus is opposed to knowledge of calculus. But who are you? You are the one in whose presence ignorance and knowledge, they shine, and you are independent of both. So ultimately, you have to recognize that I am free from bandhva of ignorance and knowledge. Now, verse number 6. Atyanta malinaha dehaha dehi cha atyanta nirmalaha asangaha aham itvi natva shaucham etat prachakshate. Right? So what does it mean? What does ignorance mean actually? That there is a kind of a mixture, and there is a confusion. And what is the confusion? That I have been given a special connection with one given body. That's the truth, right? But what is the problem? That because I have been given special connection with one body and not all the bodies, I begin to think I am as good as the body. So you can, it is like among many houses, you can have one house where you live and you have a special relationship with that particular house, but that doesn't mean you are the house, right? So we make this mistake that I become as good as the body. And when that mistake is done, then what happens? Atyanta malinaha dehaha. Body is highly limited. It is limited in so many different ways. It is limited in terms of power. It is limited in terms of its attributes. It is subject to diseases. It's subject to old age. Everything disintegrates. So, there are so many, and there is so much, food that you take. There is so much elimination that has to take place in order to keep it clean. So there are too many limitations of the body. And as long as you live with this identity that I am as good as the body, you always remain impure, right? So, what is the trick? Of course, you have to keep the body relatively clean, but the trick is to recognize I am Dehi. And who is Dehi? Dehaha asya asti iti Dehi. I am the one who right now finds myself connected to this particular body for a given length of time. And that, I am what Nirmalaha. Nirmalaha means I'm not subject to any impurities that the body may have. And this is what Asanga. Asanga does not mean I'm unconnected. There is no physical distance between Deha and Dehi. If there was a physical distance, we will not make the mistake. There is a cognitive confusion because what Deha is what we call Mithya and Dehi is Satya. And there is no physical distance between Deha and Dehi. So it is like where, suppose you take pot. Where pot is, that's exactly where clay is. So, but the pot has a form. Pot has attributes, but clay is free from those attributes. So this is why one is Satyam. Without clay, pot cannot exist. Pot is mithya. It has a form. It has an attribute which belong to pot, but they do not belong to clay. And this is why it is mithya. So deha is mithya. Why? Deha is made up of 5 elements. 5 elements themselves, as we have seen in some of the Upanishads that you may have studied, that they themselves come from what? This Akashat Vayu, Vayor Agnihi, Agnehe Apaha, Apaha Prithvi. So this is something that, 5 elements come from Ishvara, and therefore they become mithya. And Ishvara is knowledge and power. The whole creation is manifestation of this knowledge and power, which is Ishvara. What is the truth of that Ishvara? The truth of that Ishvara is existence and awareness. Satchidananda, the Swarupa is Swarupa of Ishvara also. So this is why Dehi is Deha is mithya, because it has a dependent reality, and Dehi is Satchidananda Atma, which is always Nirmalaha. And this is why Asangaha, my intrinsic nature is Satchidananda, but my incidental connection with one particular Deha gives me this impression that I'm as good as the body, but this is not true. And this is how Shaucham etat chakshate. So it's not about making something. This is very important. It is not about making Atma, which is impure, pure. It is to recognize that Atma is always pure. I think it is impure because I have mistaken Atma to be as good as the body, and body is impure. So as long as I keep this error going, there is no solution, right? And so that is why one's removal of ignorance is the only solution. Well, verse number 7. Manmanaha minavat nityam kridati anande varidhau susnataha tena hutatma samyak vignana varina. Right? So what does it mean? So our mind has to be kept, constantly it has to expose to this vision. This is why our Shastra emphasize on Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. So Shravanam is Punaha Shravanam Kuryat. So mind by its habit will live from I am the individual and I have to do something to get my fulfillment, and the world is external to me, and Ishvara, if there is, it is also external to me. This is the natural orientation of the mind, which is within the realm of ignorance. So what do you need to do? You need to bring it back to this truth again and again, like how a fish in the water, right? Fish in the water is what? It's effortless. So the mind has to be exposed to this truth again and again. Think about and reflect on this truth and contemplate on this truth so that what does it become? It becomes relatively satisfied. It becomes relatively pure. It becomes relatively non-projecting mind, and it can become relatively comfortable. So one thing that Swamiji always used to tell us, that before you understand I'm Ananda Swarupa, right? I'm the Chit and Sat are my reality. Limitlessness is my reality, and all my experiences of Ananda, right, are actually what is the real cause? My own limitlessness. My own limitlessness is the final cause of all the Ananda that I may have experienced in my life. And through those experiences, how did I come in touch with my own true nature? By giving up my smallness. In the presence of that object or in presence of that situation, for the time being, I stopped superimposing smallness on myself. As I stopped superimposing smallness on myself, I was in touch with my true nature. As I was in touch with my true nature, what it manifested as experiential Ananda. What is a mistake I make? I make a mistake. I think that that object gave me happiness. That object was only instrumental in what? Removing my own conclusion about myself in its presence. That's all the object did. So this is why I am what? Any experience that I have felt of happiness is all, the real cause is my true nature. And the more and more you come to, know your true nature, then what happens? The world becomes less and less of a problem. Because wherever there is mithya, which is an object, that's exactly where satyam is. If your attention is on satyam, then what? The cheerfulness, the joyfulness, the enthusiasm that never goes away. One does anything that one does with a certain amount of vision that, I am the fullness. And through this body and through this mind, I'm just expressing my fullness. So this is what, Adi Shankaracharya, he was a great Gnani. And at the same time, he engaged in so many activities. Those activities were undertaken not from his dissatisfaction, but as an expression of his fullness and his contribution. So this is how we have to become relatively joyful before we begin to own our true nature as limitlessness. Number 8, Atha Adhamarshanam Kuryat Prana Apana Nirodhataha Manaha Purne Samadhaya Magna Kumbhaha Yatha Arnave. Okay, so there is this when you do this Sandhya Vandanam, there is this act, and what is that? The breathing, and what is this breathing? You fill the air, which is what we call puraka, inhalation. Then you empty, which is called rechaka. And in between the filling and emptying, you hold the breath, which is called kumbhaka. So this is the practice which is done. And, this practice is very important. Why is it important? Because, I know somebody who does some research on yoga. And what they told me is that, when you breathe to, suppose, left nostril and you activate only one nostril, it helps your left, activates your right brain, and right nostril breathing activates your left brain. So what does it mean? It activates both sides of your brain, cognitive and emotional, and it makes you a more balanced human being. So this is something which is done as part of our, everyday ritual. When you chant Gayatri Mantra, you do Pranayama. So these are the things that are very important. Now, on that, you can superimpose. And what is a superimposition? The superimposition is when I listen to the teaching, I inhale all the lovely values. I inhale the knowledge and all of that, anything which is beautiful. And when I exhale, what do I need to give up? My own smallness, my own, anger, my own sorrows, my dissatisfaction. Then what does it mean? That I have to purify myself, right? So this pranayama is a representation of, self-purification. How do you, what do you inhale is knowledge and all the ideas, or the truth that is revealed by the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and Prakarana Grantha. You inhale and you take out your impurities. And as that happens, what the truth will have, as you take out all your impurities and errors and confusion, the truth will have place to, establish itself in your mind. So this is a lovely analogy which is used. Okay. Number 9. Laya vikshepayoho santau manaha tatra niramisham saha sandihi sadhitaha yena samuktaha na atra samshaya. Okay, so there are two things which are the two other practices which are very important. One is called laya and vikshepa. This is also at the level of mind. Certain amount of absorption is necessary. Generally, we are too superficial in our thinking. We don't think about anything very deeply. We remain at a very, surface level. And the second problem is that we are very distracted. Distracted means we are not able to concentrate on one given thing for a very long time. So this is one problem of the mind. So what do? We have to do practices which will help us gain depth, right? Gain depth when we resolve, from this constantly all the inputs that are coming to us and all the stories that are going on in our mind to a more fundamental being that we are. That is something that has to happen. And second is we have to learn to deal with our distractions, which don't allow us to pay attention to a given thing and to understand it deeply for a length of time. So that that practice is required. And what is that practice which will accomplish the two things? What is laya? It help you free yourself from right, which will help you gain that depth is japa, which is mentioned in verse number 10. Sarvatra praninam dehe japaha bhavati sarvada hamsa saha aham iti gnatva sarva bandhehi vimuchyate. So as you practice japa, what will happen? You have to you have to repeat one mantra for a length of time. So suppose I say, I'm going to repeat Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya for 10 minutes. Then when the mind goes off, you bring it back. So over a period of time, you become more concentrated and more focused. And as that happens, then what the teaching that you have received in the classroom, what will happen? That will resonate in your mind. That will repeat in your mind. And what is that repetition? Saha aham. I am that Ishvara. I am that Ishvara. That thought will take place more and more. And whole life will become contemplation. Whether you are walking on the street or you're cooking or you're working, that vision does not go away as your mind gains a little depth and it receives this knowledge and it enters your deeper being. So japa is a very important practice. And what does it do? It enables you to discover a certain depth within you from where you can operate. And if the knowledge if your mind has been exposed to this knowledge, then what you can connect with this knowledge, no matter where you are externally. So now, verse number 11, Tarpanam swasukhena eva swa indriyanam pratarpanam manasa mana alokya swayamatma prakashate. Okay, so tarpanam is what offering to ancestors. So this is a very big thing. Gratitude is a very important part of purification of the mind. Otherwise, the mind always finds some dissatisfaction. So how do you, one of the ways to discover gratitude is not only to pray to the sun and all the forces that are there in the universe, but to your own ancestors, right? They have contributed to your being who you are. And the fact that you have been given this opportunity to expose yourself to this knowledge, they have worked for it. So one does tarpanam. And tarpanam is acknowledgement of the forces and your ancestors in giving you what you have got in this life. But ultimately, if you go a little bit further, then what happens is your parents and their parents and their parents and their parents. And so if you really go to the source, what is the source? Only Swayamatma Prakashate. So all these forms, which are in form of your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, they are all manifestations of Ishvara. And you are connected to forms within forms, within forms, within forms. But finally, the source of all forms is nothing but Ishvara alone. So my ultimate pranam to that Ishvara. So this is the beauty of this text, that it talks about some practices and how important are those practices in preparing your mind for this knowledge. But the same practices can be turned into contemplation on the truth. So that is the beauty of this text. We will see the rest of the verses in the coming sessions. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
That was a wonderful session by Neema ji on Sadachara. We have many more of such sessions. Tomorrow morning, we will be having can put this slide for us. Ramesh Venkatraman will be talking to us about Shankara Charitam, a modern retelling. This is at 7 a.m. India time. So please join us and good night.